This one lets people talk in a free-form discussion, and then the other one, he has like a comedic, semi-comedic 12-step plan, but it's all because it pulls from the elements of harmony, but it's also endearing if you've actually read the list. You'll see that one later. This focus of this panel is just, I'm going to start and explain like why I made the panel in the first place, why I felt it was necessary, and then I'll share a quick story with you, and then anybody can discuss what they've been through. So, the point of this is that I've seen that a lot of fandoms tend to, in their infant stages, really like have trouble with backlash. Every fandom has it, and the Brony fandom is no different. But what's unique about the fandom is the fact that the backlash tends to be aimed at something that's pretty simple and not very threatening, in my opinion. So it can be really jarring to experience that. I've experienced it, a lot of my friends have, when we're trying to set up like other con events at even within other conventions, we've experienced that kind of blowback in different ways too. My personal story, I won't spend a lot of time on it, I'll just kind of start with it. I tend to gravitate towards people who try and accomplish something for the greater good, but usually they'll go through some tough stuff. Every fandom that I've been through, I think, oh, this fandom's been persecuted, so let me talk to them and see what they're about. But then later, if the fandom gets really big, then I've noticed they tend to persecute other growing fandoms. It's like a cycle, and I want to break that cycle. I don't want it to keep happening. The Bronies are unfortunately no different in this aspect. There are other fandoms that some of the Bronies tend to target, and that's another thing too that I want to discuss and deal with that. My personal story, where do I start? Sometimes dealing with tough issues is not necessarily focused just on you being a Brony, but what you represent. And it's just a show. It really is just a show to start with. But some people want to put more meaning into it, and when they do, there's a chance that meaning can be knocked down with somebody else. I used to be part of an organization. I'm not going to describe what type of organization it was because I don't want anyone to judge it automatically, but they believed that they had the right answers and no one else did. So every time I try and express my viewpoints, I would get shut down because I didn't express the popular viewpoints. It actually came to a point where I just started My Little Pony in March of 2011, and I was just learning about the fandom. I'd only watched one episode, and the only reason I watched only one was because I promised myself I'd only watch one, and of course it was a two-parter. So I held to the promise, and it's as much as I want to see the rest of it. I can't. I basically knew more about the series without even watching the show than actually watching the show, so I knew what happened in Nightmare Moon, even without seeing it. But it only took a month for the backlash to occur, and it's hard for me to explain what happened, but I was just in a group of people who were so filled with hate that they exerted that force upon me to the point where I had to remove every pony thing I had. It was one of those events where it's done in such a devious way that I couldn't really explain to anyone else even now. I had to remove all my pictures, all my art. I had to withdraw a story from EQD. I had to basically get rid of everything in My Life Pony. And that was a tough thing because I felt like if I had stayed, this is the tough part for me, I felt like if I had stayed, if I had left my story up on EQD, if I had kept going with the fandom from that point, it was so early, I felt like it could have made more of a difference on the site. Like I could have been someone who contributed a lot more, but it was pushed back so far that as far as they know, they don't even know who I am. So I could have done more, and that gets to me sometimes.
Regret things you could have done.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I wanted to discuss. A few more minutes, and I'll let you guys have the floor. And the thing that I found with Bronies that really helps amongst all the other friends I've been with is that there tends to be a friendlier atmosphere for the most part, unless you go on the internet and you tend to be in the wrong spot. No. But I used to think that I had to test myself with certain people. I had to keep certain people around because I had to give them a chance. But it turns out that there's a lot more lessons that I had to learn. Sometimes the word friendship can be really limiting, and if people are not good for you, you have to consider another way of dealing with them.
Friendship is a two-sided thing.
Yes.
When someone's not contributing you, you think friendship is And I was just saying, friendship has to be a two-sided thing. You can't just, obviously, everyone knows this. You can't just have one person contributing, have one style of friendship and then one other style of dealing with people. It's just, if you're not friendly to the person, then they wouldn't want to be your friend. So, I'm sorry, I'm not really good at speaking.
That's okay. You had a point here.
Someone else want to alleviate this awkwardness?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my struggle is kind of less of an external one. I feel like a lot of bronies struggle with. I feel like a lot of people have trouble, being seen as a brony or worry about what other people think. But I work with a bunch of rough and tough sort of guys, and I have this Twilight Sparkle wallet, and every time I see it, they call me gay, but I don't care because I've been called gay my whole life. I've learned to sort of disassociate what people say from myself, so that doesn't bother me. My whole struggle with My Little Pony was sort of more of an internal one. I guess it almost dates back to how I actually became a brony, but I would see My Little Pony stuff around, it's whatever. I like Dexter's Lab, I still like Dexter's Lab, and I just sort of I felt like My Little Pony is a cartoon that got popular because of the internet and because a couple of people gravitated to it and started doing cool things with it. So the fandom is really more the interesting part of Brony-dom for me, more than the show itself. The show is just a launching point for where all the cool stuff is from. And there's this show on YouTube, I don't know if you guys have seen Rainbow Dash Presents, but it's this guy, what he does is he reads fan fictions. But the first one he ever did was a fan fiction called Bubbles, and I watched it and I thought it was hilarious. So I was like, well, I guess I'll look up this fan fiction. I like fan fiction. I've been reading fan fiction since Digimon back in the day. So I looked it up, and I have never had a story punch me in the stomach so hard. So the story is about Derpy, and basically, she's challenged, and the subtext is that her mother doesn't want her because she's mentally challenged. And my brother's autistic, which has led me to do a lot of thinking about if I had a child that was mentally challenged, what would I do? And as a kid and up to that point, I'd always think stuff like, if I had a son or daughter with mentally challenged, I think I'd have to put them up for adoption. I don't think I can handle that. I have to get rid of them. And to read a fan fiction that is all about from the point of view of the child, that plight, not being wanted, that punched me so hard in the stomach. I was like, maybe the show isn't what's special about this. So my struggle was about internalizing that the important part of Brony-dom isn't My Little Pony. It's what we've done with it, the broader spectrum, Rainbow Factory. Everybody familiar with fan fiction Rainbow Factory, right? For me, that's not just supposed to be this dark, pointlessly evil story. It's about our school system. Not everybody's good at school, right? So the idea that one test makes or breaks your entire life, that sort of says something to me. I struggled for a long time that the works of the fans could mean and be more important than the works of the original, because I guess I consider myself something of like a philosopher. I do a lot of book reading, and a pretty famous quotation is that everything ever written about philosophy is a footnote of Plato, and he's a bold philosopher. So I tend to view things like branching out, but My Little Pony has like this weird rotating, everything around it is sort of what's important, and this is just the spring point. So my struggle with this whole show is just sort of been about, who am I in comparison to, these people creating these sort of things? What am I to present? What are these people presenting these ideas to me? Now I'm losing my tongue, but
what exactly you can contribute to the community?
I'd say that's definitely a part of the struggle, because I feel like unless you're just like a hipster and you want to appreciate My Little Pony ironically, being a brony does kind of demand some level of creativity or input, or at least an intuitive mind. And I've tried to write fan fiction, but anytime I do, I write philosophy. That's what I write. So I just end up writing philosophical quandaries on like the morality of cutie marks and stuff like that. And I don't think people really don't want to read about that sort of stuff. So. I guess that's sort of where my struggle is right now. But I mean, before that, it's like it was like the whole thing with my brother that really just punched me in the stomach really hard. Just realizing that this really simple story based on this really simple show, based on a character that's not even important to the show, that's in there because of an animation error, is something that punched me hard enough. I broke down and just had to contemplate my life.
What you said about the intuitive mind thing actually reminded me a little bit of, some of the internal shifting or struggling for me, because that's never really the part of life I viewed myself before My Little Pony as being involved in. Even when I was back in elementary school, I got an advanced placement program, but got further on, especially in like math. And I was with the honor students and known as one of the math and science guys. And even now in college, I'm taking a degree in biophysics, and I really never took much of an interest before in like art or artistic works, and kind of had a bit of a look down a bit somewhat on like art critics and literature critics and the like, until My Little Pony came along and I had to struggle with, wait, I like this, and the creativity of it all, and the different, creativities of the fans, and even down to fan fiction, which before I never deigned to look at. I found myself getting into fan fiction, and what's happening to me?
Such a departure from the usual.
And until now, I find like I might, I haven't yet, but I find like I might like to do a fan fiction myself someday. I like creative stuff. Now I'm going to do it more.
Liberal arts. I was a liberal art major. I always hated getting looked down upon by the math and science people.
I guess here we are, and Brony-Fest.
Yeah, that's right. Never would have taken a cross culture class in college, but here we are.
I was just thinking,
No, go ahead.
I worked in the mall for about 4 years, and this one girl, she was always fun, and she's one of my favorite customers, and she's like, "You're awesome, you want My Little Pony." I'm just like, no, I don't have time for that, like nonsense, big stuff. Because my mom has always said, when you get older, you don't want to watch cartoons anymore. Of course, I battled that again. She's like, if you like anime, she's like, go My Little Pony. I said, no. She's like, promise me, you'll watch at least one episode. I was like, I don't want to. She fought me for at least like a year and a half to watch it. She was determined to make me watch it for like a year and a half. And so finally I said, okay, fine. I said, I'm quitting the store. I said, I probably won't see you again. I said, I'll watch one episode. She goes, okay, good. She's like, in that case, she's like, the next time I come, you have to do it, because you better have watched it. I was like, fuck. So I know I watched the first episode, and she's like, so I ended up watching like 6 episodes like that. And I was doodling in my notepad, and I drew a picture of Big Mac, and like, you know, whatever. So I go, and she says, so what do you think? Did you watch it? And I was like, well, she goes, how many episodes? And I said, 6. She pulls out her notebook. Victory. Yeah, she pulls out her notebook, and she starts trying to figure this stuff. And I like art, and I've always wanted to like draw more, but it's so freaking hard. So with the ponies, it was kind of a little experience. I was sitting there doing ponies one day, and my mom was like, she goes, where are you going? Come on. She says, did you always do that? I said, no, I'm not. She just goes, yes. She says, when little kids can recognize that you're watching, she's like, that's when you need to stop. And I was just like, it just got hurt me. I was just like, well, but it's cool, you know, because it's something that you're interested in. It doesn't matter what direction you talk about it. If you're interested in it, you want to draw it, want to make options, so it's always possible. There we go. I love putting the thought and and stuff like that. And when somebody says, you can't do that because the little thing recognizes it, it made me kind of sad. And I was just like, well, you know what, I think I'm going to do it anyway and be like a superhero movies for kids, because, I mean, it's fun to be noticed and to be recognized. And when you can't do that in like real life every day, I mean, I wouldn't walk around like this in school, but maybe for Halloween.
It's kind of silly to say that, though. I mean, like, if you look back in the day, like, everybody read Gulliver's Travels, like, kids and adults alike. That's...
Yeah, and see, that's always my mom thing. She's like, cartoons are for kids. You know, stop watching them at the age of 7. And I'm just like, oh, no, come on. You gotta find something interesting. And then when I told her I was coming to Brony-Con, she actually said, I don't know you. Why are you in the house? And I was like, oh,
Like Supernatural, that's like an adult show, but I know tons of kids, like little girls watch it with the hot boys.
But, no, honestly, I think it's cool. And I think that if you're going to do it, you may as well be into it as much as you want to. I don't think anybody should tell you that you don't have to, or that you shouldn't do what you do.
Hear, hear.
Okay, anyway, as I was saying, just kind of branching off of what you said about how you got into, more artistic stuff when you actually did get to the Brony fandom. I know that was definitely, that's definitely how I was. I had no interest in any of that at all before I got into the Brony fandom. But then I started, like you said, I started reading fan fiction. I'm like, I would never do this with anything else. And but branching off of that again, it was more than just the artistic side for me. It was more also the I guess you could say philosophical side. I started looking at things from a really different light. I started tolerating others' opinions more, and I started accepting what other people said a lot more rather than shutting myself in. Because before I joined, I was just 14, just a wee lad. Whenever I first joined the fandom back in July 2011. That's it.
So you're still a youngin'.
Yeah, and I was kind of already gradually progressing out of my little childish phase there, but I was still in it. And then that's when I got into Bronies fandom, and everybody's just like love and tolerate this and love and tolerate that, and I'm like I'm a little kid where I only respected my own opinion, and everybody else's was secondhand. And then finally I learned there are other people that believe things other than me, and so I really need to reach out and be a good guy and really accept what they have to say, because, well, I'm not the only person on this earth. And so yeah, that's just a huge thing for me.
Is love and tolerate ever even said in the show?
Nope.
No, that's interesting. That's like something that we've embraced.
It was made. I don't even know where it originally came
It's
from.
probably
picture.
That picture,
I know.
love and tolerate the
Yeah.
Is it on your wallet?
Yeah.
Well, it says heck, but yeah. Love and tolerate love is it's sort of, I guess, not even really a theme in the show. It's just something that we've adopted as our sort of mantra, or raison d'etre as a Brony.
And it's also, like you said before, that fandom gets bigger and people get more judgmental, and then that it's the same with any organization, and you start to lose the
There was a moment, and I'm not gonna say which fandom, but I was at a different fandom's meetup 2 years ago. They were talking about some of the more risque parts of the fandom and what to do about it. And one kid in the audience actually asks, and this isn't a Brony fandom, one kid actually gets in the audience and he asks in a very serious way, these people that are doing stuff that we don't like, should we make fun of them? He actually asked that in verbatim, that question. And I couldn't believe that was asked in seriousness. And it was a really big fandom, and that was a huge red flag to me, that something was very wrong. And I've yet to hear any bronies say that. But
So there hasn't been a big brony schism yet, I think. I hope there isn't ever one, but...
Well, there was Derpy Gate, you know, the whole, them.
But that wasn't really a fan
there's
schism.
those
There's
rocking.
like, we don't have like a Luna Celestial war, like...
Oh, yeah.
or like a shipping war. Like most fandoms end up having shipping wars.
Well, there's
Yeah.
kind of the issue of, and no opinion on this whole thing, but the whole Bull 34 issue, and
Oh, Clopping.
That was
yeah, the whole thing, because I know for a while there was a big issue, and I was just looking at the things, so but the whole thing was like, some people were very much against it, and, you know, totally understandable. And there's other people who are more on the side of that, and they're like, well, why, you know, y'all are all love and tolerate, what's the issue here? And I mean, it is kind of where you, because I get that, you know,
So you're
people
saying
don't want to be
where's the limit?
associated with somebody else, but at the same time, you can't just completely disown someone whenever that's, or agree with
I sort of feel as though the fandom, if you're not into like clopping, then you just sort of avoid it, and if you're into it for the lulz, you can appreciate it. And then I don't necessarily know anyone. I don't know. Seriously, I don't know anybody that just like, hell yeah, ponies, man. Like let's get behind that. I mean, I'm just can't handle myself when I'm looking at Rainbow Dash. I don't know anybody that's like that. I guess that's something of a schism, I suppose. Yeah, but we're not hating each other over that.
I was gonna say back to what you said. I really do agree. I kind of see the show like as a tree, and then the community is its roots, and sort of ever expanding. And it's sort of strengthening the ground that the tree lays upon.
So the fandom is really what makes this show. I mean, like just like on a completely objective level, say like I think, have you guys seen Gravity Falls?
Yeah.
I think Gravity Falls is a better show than My Little Pony, but it doesn't have a better community around it. And the community around Brony makes Brony fandom better, you know? As objectively as possible. Like most animes are better than My Little Pony, but there's not a single anime that has like this giant ass following. Maybe Italia, but Italia's not even that good.
I don't know, that, like, the show is still, like, sorry, I actually really like the show because it's like my childish guilty pleasure, because everything about that show is so little kiddish, and all the freaking songs and the animation, and it's
I'm a big history guy, and it bothers me that they omit a lot of stuff. Well, like there's no Holocaust, there's no didn't involve Mexico at all in World War II.
So you don't
Mexico's
sound
a
like
big deal.
Assassin's Creed at all.
Wait, you don't have My Little Pony?
Oh, Italia. Italia.
Sorry.
And I'm so glad they didn't have the Holocaust in My Little Pony. Dang.
I don't know. So, like in all okay, so like Pegasi are warriors, unicorns are scholars, and Earth ponies are the working class. There's classism, like by design. Like your species dictates what you're good at.
Yeah.
In My Little Pony.
Until modern day, when there's like hoity-toity and
But you
the
can,
photo finish has arrived.
you can look at it from the child, like the whole episode is like a childish guilty pleasure thing, but it you can look at it from that point of view and just have fun with it. But then yeah, you can also, because the way the show is set up, have fun with it on kind of a different level of just like, oh well, you know.
Okay, that's my weakness. Like I can't not do philosophy when I watch things. Like so I try and write fan fiction. I just end up writing philosophical quandaries.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Go really in deep to something. Try to figure
Yeah,
out what exactly.
I have a show on YouTube, and that's all I do. Is I overthink things.
That's not a bad thing.
It is if you're trying to write.
It is if you're trying to write creatively. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I'm another one that really likes, you know, the show itself too. Just kind of going, or the fandom. Definitely, I'm further into this fandom than I ever imagined myself being in any fandom before. But like another thing to consider is, you know, like the feeling people get when they watch My Little Pony. For example, like I also really like the series Death Note, but the feelings that that show inspires is a whole different world.
It's day and night, right?
You gotta read Mount of Death Note, have a
Yes, I remember. Saying
I'll
yes for
take a potato.
And I eat it! Salt flies everywhere.
That's what we're gonna say.
No, I was just laughing.
But yeah, you can be having a really terrible day and then freaking Song 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 or any of the other really songs, but Song 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 is like the big one. Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan of like show tunes, so Flim and Flam's super
Cider
speedy
Speedy.
Cider Speedy. That song,
That's-
which harkens back not only to the Simpsons monorail episode, but to the Music Man's Trouble. That's like, oh man, it's got the same bass line, but it has the same, yo, you're not in trouble. But it has the monorail's, like talking and like speed and pep, so it's just this wonderful show tune. It's my favorite song in the whole show.
I still have not perfected that song. I have
It's
it in
hard.
my car and I drive.
It's so hard. You have to have another person.
When he says right here, here's where the magic happens, and he goes into this long, really quick that is difficult to figure out just by hearing it.
I had that problem trying to learn how to sing Hardware Store.
Isn't there like trying to figure out how to sing Chop Suey by listening to it?
You want to do? What you want to do? I've been listening to that song since I was a little kid. Or what was that REM song? 6 o'clock TV hour, don't get caught in for End of the World. That's what you know it, not go.
Back to the
Bananas.
subject. So, one of the things I noticed that I do at work, I work at a just a retail store. I've been there for like almost a year and a half, and the thing that gets me through the day is sometimes like just thinking about the ponies or ideas for stories or ideas for the conventions, and sometimes I'll just smile out of nowhere. And all of my coworkers know that I'm a brony. I'm the only one there, at least, that's open about it. And they're like, one of the guys is like, "Hey, you thinking about ponies again, aren't you?" Because he saw me smiling. I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I know it." He's like,
Alright, am I too late for this?
"No, go ahead." Yeah. I just want to be able to hear because it's loud out there. But when I'm at work, I have to deal with a lot of returns and people coming back. And some people come with legitimate excuses, some people not as legitimate. And it's tough to deal with some people who think you're trying to cheat them because you're following a policy, and you have to maintain a certain type of mentality to be civil with them. And I think about so many times trying to be honest, trying to be generous, trying to be kind, and it just sort of bounces off their disposition towards you, just their anger. Yeah, so one of my coworkers said that she doesn't know how I do it because she shakes whenever she says she shakes whenever she has to deal with people yelling at her. And I've had people yell at me and give me excuses, and I sort of just stand straight up and tell them like it is, like Applejack, but I try to be careful about it because sometimes the tact is not there. And that's one of the things that I try to live by, because it didn't start with the show. The show was just pointing something out that we try and do normally anyway. So I just think about that, and it makes things easier in some ways, but more of a challenge in some respects, because I'm trying to adhere to a code of being an upstanding individual. It's not always easy. That's what I have to say about that.
Sorry, in relation to that, I'm a runner. I run a lot. I run track and cross country. I run distance, a whole bunch of stuff. And so, like, if you're like run the mile or something, you feel terrible throughout the entire race, and you just need something to push you and to motivate you. And so I was out for a while because of an injury, but I've recently gotten back and done a couple of meets and stuff. And I don't know. I started reading the Fall of Equestria fanfic. I started reading that like a few weeks ago, or just last week. And so I'm running, and I'm like, Fall of Equestria. So it's like kind of like you said, I find the motivation in thinking about the fandom or anything that I might do, and it pushes me, and I gotta get home. I gotta read more, and things like that.
I run a lot too, and there's have you guys heard that the 20% Cooler song? Like that's if you guys know what a running cadence is, it's actually like perfect sync for running cadence. So I can like sort of sing that to myself while I'm running. So.
That makes sense.
Even with the only people, like, crazy people on their, whatever they're going on that day. I mean, if you're thinking of, gosh, I'm gonna start with brain. But like, I've got things that'll make me smile, you know, locked away in the back of my head. So whenever somebody's yelling at me and screaming at me, either I could be singing one of the little songs in my head, or I'm thinking, you know, of crazy stuff little kids do, or I'm watching an episode in my head as I'm talking to you going, yeah. And so, I mean, it's fun to have those little things in your head. If somebody's like, well, then why are you happy?
Anytime someone's yelling at you about anything, just imagine them yelling it in Trixie's voice. Makes it way better.
Using their name in place of I.
We'll tell Trixie when she wants
It's
to.
not you, it's not even intentional.
I'm gonna start laughing at them. It's gonna make it worse. Come on.
Okay,
Which is just getting angrier.
I'm really sorry. It's just like I just walked in here, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. Can someone just shed some light on?
It's sort of about like the struggles we face in Broniedom, both like external, like from other people, like maybe heckling you, or like mine was internal, just like where do I fit in fandom, you know, like it's just the things that we face, just that we struggle with, and how I guess Broniedom helps us through that, and maybe the community, just what we like about it.
Okay. That's good. I'm glad someone here.
Yeah, it's not good.
I have a story, if anyone's interested.
Absolutely. You said you
Everybody has their own unique story of how they actually got involved with fandom in the first place. Because let's be honest, unless you have an extremely open mind, something so fluid like this would be almost an insult to someone that's not used to that being part of their life, you know? I come from a pretty hardcore testosterone-infused lineage, okay? You know, my brother and I, we both have different fathers, same mother. His father is, you know, super hardcore redneck, and that's how he helped raise us. My father was super hardcore Russian liver killer. So that kind of blend of culture, it's like My Little Pony, that goes just like you know. So a couple years ago, it was September of 2011, yes. I had a really bad pain in my right flank, okay? And it was kind of like almost an internal bruising feeling, but a lot more intense. And I told my mom, hey, this pain kind of sucks. Can we like go to the ER or something? She said, okay, just wait it out. You know, maybe you gotta use the bathroom or something. So 2 weeks later, I'm like, Mom, it's getting a lot worse. Take me to the ER. She's like, okay. So we head up to Medical City, Dallas, and I thought, okay, I'm probably just gonna take a urine test. They're gonna tell me I have a problem with my kidney. They're gonna give me some antibiotics. I'm gonna go home. No. Mark. They started giving me, they started wanting to do an MRI and different kinds of scans. And finally it came down to, they wanted to do a biopsy. It's like, biopsy for what? You know? So I go under the knife, and it gives me anesthesia, pass out, wake up. There's a portacath installed in my chest, and there's some scars down in there. And the nurse is over me, and she says, you have stage 4 lymphoma, and you have 6 to 8 weeks to live. I was like, I'm thinking 6 or 8 decades. So they got me all chemoed up, and I was in the hospital for about 3 months, and it sucked. Back to the Brony topic, I had a friend that was in the show, and this was back when it was in semi-early years. I had only seen pictures of it on the internet. I hadn't really explored it for myself, because like I said, it was just not my thing at first. And my friend's like, well, I would stay the night Friday night, but I gotta wake up and watch my Saturday morning cartoons. I'm like, what are you watching? He's like, My Little Pony. Okay, I'm not gonna judge if that's your thing. I'm dying. Yeah. So I was laying in the hospital bed, and Heroes for Children, this organization that like gives out like laptops for children with cancer and stuff. They gave me a laptop. And I was like, okay, this is something to do while I'm laying here dying. Just go on the internet. And I went on YouTube, and on their homepage, they had MLP episodes, like everywhere. So I was like, well, I'm in a hospital. I have absolutely nothing better to do, so I guess I'll watch an episode. And the next thing I knew, I was on episode 26, and it was 5 in the morning.
Rule number 1, there is no such thing as, oh, I'll just watch one episode.
Yeah. And I can definitely say that that show helped me get through the psychological aspect of cancer. Because in addition to it just screwing up your body and making everything suck, it's also the mental thing, like, why, you know? Like, MLP is like, this helps make life worth living. And that was before I even knew there was a huge fandom behind it. You know?
And you're watching what the fandom put.
Yeah.
And that's the main reason I wish it was back in 2006. I really needed it back then. So was the founder. Yeah, I also had cancer.
Oh, what kind of cancer?
Yeah, acute leukemia, basically all, as I like to jest about it. Steroids went poorly, and now I have the early stages of arthritis, gained over 100 pounds in a few months, and had almost all the non-lethal side effects. But other than that, I was really in a low point during years followed. I've been more holed up in my room than ever, and just something that I mainly stayed with anime. And once I found my little phone, I went, okay, I might have an anime at the moment, might as well watch it. Know Your Meme says it should be good. I go, alright. I give it a shot, and I have opened up a bit more, but I'm still Beaver John. Then again, I've always been Beaver John. But yeah, so it would have been a lot easier if it came out a few years sooner. But hey, that's just how that is.
And my family and some of my friends. Another thing about MLP is that it can help amplify your vision in the sense of who's really my friend and who isn't. Because the friends that I thought I knew were the very ones that were calling me gay for watching a cartoon. I was like, okay, if you think that a cartoon dictates my sexual orientation, then you're too stupid to be hanging around me. And, you know, no one really gives me anything about it anymore. My mom's like, well, that's his thing. The only people that really give me a problem with it are my brother, but I think he's just teasing because he's a brother.
He's your brother.
Yeah, that's what he does.
My little sister kept doing that. She's just like, oh, that's so weird. She's like, I can't believe you watch it. I'm like, how could you not read the cartoon?
Watch her be a secret girl.
Well, she kept bugging me forever about it. Kept making fun of me, and like we would hang out, and she's like, I was just come over, and she'd be like, I don't see why you guys are hanging out over something about portions. So I made her sit down one day, and I literally sat on top of her, so she would watch it. And she's like, is there a new episode out? Can I come over and watch Ponies? And like she like begs me to come over, so she can watch like Ponies at my house. Yeah,
Justin, if his friends are around, I kind of like, yeah, it's some Ponies, and then whenever his friends are around, it's like, so what's the next talk? With my house,
yeah, like I made my little sister get into it, so she quit calling me that, and she just like she'll go to someone's house, and we would sit there talking about Ponies, my mom, and she's like, what are you doing? She's like, Mom, you just with Ponies. It's like, oh, yes.
It's kind of funny to think
It's a subtle
about
victory.
how culture as a general just changes rapidly. You think 10 years ago, My Little Ponies for little girls and vampires were like badass and manly.
Things have changed.
How the mighty have fallen.
But like you go back to the day, vampires were really girly. They were like super Victorian-esque pretty boys. So. It's just been swirling
They
around.
didn't see themselves as girly, even though they were.
Even though everything in that era was girly.
Well, that's the whole point. Relatively
'90s
speaking,
happened.
why?
Wave came out.
Little boys wore pink.
Yeah, the Lost Boys.
Originally, I think was the.
Yeah, it was a little boy's color originally.
It's kind of ironic. I didn't realize it until just now, but the next panel that's after this is cosplay and public performance, which is I'm gonna hold that. I have like 9 panels this weekend.
Nice.
Good
job.
Yeah, so I didn't think of it until just now when we were talking about these various topics, but the way I met my Brony friends was because of cosplay. Because I live in Austin, and Austin's so easygoing about many things. So seeing Rainbow Dash walk down, South Congress is not a big, or take a picture in front of the Capitol building is not a big issue. But yeah, but
Seeing it on a postcard is a bit different.
yeah, and that's how I met my Brony friends, because I just basically kept going further and further with how I could express it. And I would, at work, how I got my job, I believe this is a big part of it. It was during Halloween, and I found out I got hired. I asked them, can I advertise these costumes for you? And I made a Rainbow Dash costume out of stuff from the store, and I'd go around Austin with the costume, and people loved it. People would drive by in cars in South Congress saying, "I love you," or say like, "Oh, I just love Austin." They just say that walking by me. And I met my friends at a comic store playing, I kid you not, it was like a game called Tephra. Yeah, and it's basically like steampunk D&Ds, is a short way of saying it. And they were playing, I kid you not, that night, My Little Tephra.
I played that game actually.
Yeah.
I played that game.
Yeah, it was a pony version of it where they just had like little, not My Little Pony figures, but just little horse figures. And so I go up there dressed as Rainbow Dash, and they say that they're the first persons to recognize me, and that was before season 2 started. So that group is the group that I got together to watch season 2, and from there do a bunch more, just because of that. And it was me getting past a lot of stuff, sort of meeting people based upon what I was good at.
It's outstanding.
Yeah, it was great.
I think something that I should have, I kind of neglect about myself is, I guess I don't mind being called gay and people call me names, because usually when people pick on me, I like to beat them up. I'm a very confrontational person. I don't like being the weak part of it. I don't know if you guys have noticed.
I see you like Discord.
I like Discord. I like I like to take charge when I'm in a group like this. I feel like
you win a conversation by being the loudest.
Yeah, exactly. It's a weakness of mine, so I hate getting pushed around.
Set yourself as the alpha male.
Yeah, I do. So I guess that's why the bullying part never picked on me. But my buddy here, he's sort of a closet brony. I just don't. I changed his picture on Facebook to a Twilight Sparkle one. He was so ashamed, broken. His mother's sending the Facebook messages. Why did you do this?
No, but the problem is, it's my mom's if she sees something like this, it's not that she thinks it's bad, it's just she won't comprehend what's going on. it's like playing Gmod, where if you don't have a mod for something, it'll just come up as this weird texture thing.
Or a giant arrow.
Yeah. Error message.
My brain.
I hate when my family talks about about what I like, because basically the way they see it is, if I like it, then they should try to see why I like it. So they'll ask me questions all the time, or they'll look stuff up for it, or it's kind of creepy, to tell you the truth.
It's kind of cool, I think.
Because I know that if I tell my mom, "Hey mom, look at this really cool thing," she's like, "I don't want to know why, because you're into it. I just don't want it."
Well, I mean, it's not that they try to get into it. It's I guess they try to
understand why.
Yeah,
the reasoning behind it.
Yes, they try to understand the reasoning behind it, and so and then that'll lead to they'll go out and buy me things. But most of the time, if it's in the early stages, they won't know. They'll think that I like this, but I don't actually like that. They would buy me maybe a G1 pony shirt. I'll do that.
This is not G3.
But it's Applejack. It's got the 5 apples and the.
I have nothing wrong with G1. I mean, it's not my.
It was horrifying.
It was pretty horrifying.
Like, I mean that like on the most basic fear level possible. That show is terrifying. There's an episode where Applejack gets like chained down to a program and turned into a dragon.
That is why pirates.
There's an episode where glass sweeps across the land, turning everything into glass, and the ponies get like stuck in these horrified positions. That show was scary. I went with my sisters on it. That show was scary.
It's kind of funny how a lot of the people that actually criticize Bronies for questionable, interests, they also have something even worse of their own.
Fox News.
It's like my mom, whenever I first started being a Brony, she's like, "Why do you watch My Little Pony?" And I said, "Why do you watch Toddlers and Tiaras?"
Yes.
That shut her up.
We are
You cannot explain the reasons why we do.
kind of relating to that and to what you said earlier about how you were able to tell your real friends from your your fake ones. I had one specific friend. He's my best friend. And he's been my best friend since I was 4 years old. We'd always been really close. We'd always go over to each other's houses, play games together, anything like that. But finally, when we got to our late teens, he really started to change. He really started getting worse for reasons I don't know. But basically, when I had finally gotten into My Little Pony, he was like, "What?" He was just like awestruck by that. And so one day I invited him over to my house, and my friend, who's actually she should be here by now, but I mean she's attending this con. She made me like a little Pinkie Pie plush, and it's absolutely amazing. And so I had it out, and he saw it, and he picked it up, and he was just mocking like every aspect of it, and like it was just awful. And so he's never been over to my house ever again, and because I realized he was a very good friend, and now he's doing a multitude of drugs, and his parents are getting him, trying to get him off of smoking cigarettes and all of the bad things. So I'm glad I got away from him, while I still could. And, My Little Pony really helped me see that.
Mocking a plush boy.
Yeah. He's like mocking all the aspect of it, like how her tail's all poofy. He made fun of that, and he made fun of the fact that she was,
He
pink.
was being hateful.
Yeah, he was being really hateful.
I can imagine at some point he got like really desperate trying to find things to peck at.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
I picture him at one point going, pink.
Yeah, that's actually pretty much how it was.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, these people can say stuff like, it's kind of funny that you mentioned the fact that, he went on to do smoke, you said he did drugs?
Like marijuana, cough syrup, all that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there are so many people who think that others, all Bronies are just obsessed with everything in it. There's a fine difference between being obsessed and just being really involved in it. And guys, let's face it, there's a lot of even if we were addicted to it, there's a lot of worse things we can be addicted to.
Yeah.
So in the end, is this really that bad? Before I was a Brony, I think the first time I had ever heard about this big phenomenon, I've always been a big internet dork. I've spent a lot of time, on YouTube, 4chan, and stuff like that. I started becoming aware of the whole Brony thing around the September of 2011. Whenever at A-Fest, if anyone goes to that. That was really the first time I got to see what a Brony was. And I'll never forget, there was this big, 6'9" black dude just holding up this big rainbow-ass sign going, swag, 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 swag. And I'm thinking to myself, well, dear God, it's just, I never, it took me a little while to, actually become a Brony. I kind of consider the 1 week mark after a Camelot wedding aired, kind of like our anniversary, and I'm coming up on my 1 year mark, so I jumped in right as the season 2 hiatus started. Something, oh my God. But before that, it was really strange to me. I never went through a period of hating Bronies or anything. I never did. I didn't get it at all. And at first, I kind of thought it was I thought it was as I'm sure a lot of people did, they thought it was just some big joke. These guys were just doing it to be ironic or funny, but so I just kind of wrote it off as I'm just trying to get attention, and went back about my business. And the following months, I kept seeing a bunch of kept meeting Bronies on the internet. It's oh, so
this is a legitimate thing, isn't it? Oh yeah, absolutely. And you're not trying to, this isn't an act like you guys really like the show. And, oh yes, absolutely. And I remember the first Brony video I ever saw was by accident. It was Epic Pie Time, if anybody understands. That was the first real taste of Brony I had ever gotten. And see, I don't really think I have like a tragic story about like, the show saved my life or anything. It's just that like whenever I graduated high school, I wasn't destined. I'm not like a huge scholarship person. Like I wasn't bound for Harvard or Yale or anything like that. But it was really high school was a great time for us, and to see all of my friends, when we all graduated, like 7 out of every 9 friends I had dispersed all across the country to go to UCLA, University of Washington, just all these places, and I haven't seen them since. So when I first got out of high school and everything, I was scared. I was a little upset about it. I went through a slight depression. It's just kind of like, wow, what do I do now? And following months, I started learning about Brony and everything, and I got into it. I want to say late April, early May of last year, and the first 2 Brony videos I ever saw were Epic Pie Time and Shed. We saw that at my friend's Halloween party, and we're like, oh god. But I've been trying to become a musician for many years. Like I picked up guitar, and I've been doing it for about 7 years. And I struggled for years to try and find out like something that could give me, I guess like spark a music or something like that. Like when I could play a bunch of stuff. Like I grew up around musical influences like Rush, Pink Floyd, The Who, and stuff like that. But I could play those songs, but I could never like do anything on my own. Like I wanted to write my own stuff, but I couldn't find that what was the term? Like that X factor, I guess, or the thing that really spoke to me until very just recently. Like
Catalyst.
Yeah, I never would have guessed, because now I'm trying to become a Brony musician, and I was like, because of this, when I wrote my first song, I was like, wow, I never would have guessed that something like this is what would have helped me. And since then, as you said, the show points out stuff that we've probably known before in the past, but never really thought about it. But
So it brings it to the surface.
yeah, it really does, and also a lot of stuff I didn't even think about that the show has taught me. But again, I'm sure a lot of people have been here since the halfway mark of season 1 and everything. Been Bronies for like what, 1.5 years, 2 years and stuff. Do what? Last October? Okay, well you're with me on that. But in all honesty, like the more I think about it, it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me.